everyone, welcome to Stamp-a-faire 2016. This is Melissa Phillips, and today I would like to share with you my technique, which was inspired by the Impressionistic artwork. And today we're going to explore Impressionistic florals. And it's just kind of a fun technique that you can get messy with, which I love. You don't have to be precise and accurate. Your embossing powder in white is kind of what works all of the magic here. You're going to add a little bit of water, but it's kind of the layered embossing powder that creates the soft, delicate, kind of airy and ethereal look that might be reminiscent of Impressionism. So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my flowers, and you can use watercolor cardstock if you have it, but if not, white will be just fine. And I'm just going to stamp my cardstock with all of my flowers first and get the embossing done and the coloring done, and then I'm just going to fussy cut them. But if you choose to use your dies, that's completely up to you. I don't mind fussy cutting once in a while. It kind of is soothing to me. So we'll start with the Floral Sketches, or yeah, that's what it's called, Floral Sketches stamp set. And I'm going to use my Misty. And I just wanted to start with this largest flower, which I stamped in, let's see, Pale Peony. And like I said before, you don't have to be exact and precise, because you're going to add water and you're going to add layers of color and you're going to add layers of embossing powder. So while we're stamping our flowers, we'll go ahead and get our leaves stamped as well. So everything we need will be done, and then it's just a matter of kind of going through the process. It's kind of a lengthy process, but definitely enjoyable, and it has such beautiful results. So my leaves I'm going to stamp in Spring Moss, and I used one of the large leaves and two of the smaller leaves. And so I need to stamp my small leaf one more time. Okay, and that gives us a good assortment of colors and flowers to work with. So the next step is adding the detailed layer to each of these flowers and leaves, and we're going to do that with embossing powder and Versamark watermark ink. So there's not a whole lot you'll see at this point, because I'm just going to ink my stamp with watermark ink, which, if you're not familiar with, it's clear and it's sticky, so that when you shake on your embossing powder, it sticks to the watermark ink. See, there's nothing you can see at this point, but the stamp is there and ready and waiting for the loose embossing powder to hit it. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp each of these with my watermark ink, using the detailed layer stamp for each of the images. Alright, so the embossing powder has now been set, and you can see, because I didn't use my embossing buddy, my stamp buddy, to ensure that the powder didn't stick anywhere it shouldn't, it kind of speckled, and we've got little droplets of it here and there, which is exactly what we're going for with this technique. But when I first tried this, I was not satisfied, because I wanted those detailed images to stand out really even more than they already are. So what you do next is go ahead and you're going to emboss all over again. Stamp and emboss. So go ahead and get your detailed stamp layer on again. Ink it up, and I'm not lining it up precisely. Ink it up with your watermark ink. Stamp every image one more time. Coat with your embossing powder and then heat up, and you've got a really thick layer of embossing powder, which starts to create the really soft look that you're going for. So that will be your next step, is just kind of repeating that first process, that first step all over again. Okay, so here you are with 2 layers of embossing powder, and I love what I see. We've got lots of loose flecks of embossing powder that have been heat set in there, and we've kind of got a blurred outline, which is exactly what we're going for, because with Impressionism it was kind of blurry and soft and fuzzy, so to speak. It wasn't super precise. So that's what I was hoping for when I began this technique. So, okay, moving on. Now we're going to add, before we add our colored layer of detail, we're going to go in and do some watercoloring and just kind of bring these flowers to life a little bit with some depth by adding different colors. I like to use a water brush, but if you don't have one, you can go ahead and just use a paintbrush and a cup of water. So we'll start with this top flower right here, and I'm just going to swipe my water brush over my ink pad and then just start adding color. And I like to add the darker color to the center, just to get as realistic to actual flowers as I possibly can. This is Raspberry Fizz. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. And then I'm just going to smudge these other petals so that the watercolor starts taking effect. Okay, let's see. And you just kind of have to use your imagination with these and think about flowers that you would see in nature and the different shades that you might get in a pink flower. Sometimes you might see a little bit of orange in there, just maybe depending on how the light's hitting it. So just be creative and don't be afraid to try new things. My guess is most likely you're going to love what you end up with. And that's kind of the beauty of watercolors, is it kind of does just soften everything and make everything look beautiful together. This is Hibiscus Burst, so just some more deeper pinks. And let's see, I used Orange Zest before that. And that's probably as far as I'll go on that one. For this orange one, I stamped it in Summer Sunrise, and so I'm going to bring in some deeper orange by using Orange Zest. And you can see how when you apply your ink, that wonderful embossing powder that you heat set stands out even more. And that's exactly what you need it to do, so that those soft details will kind of come to life. And I might add a little bit of pink to this orange flower as well, using some Berry Sorbet. I love how the colors change a little bit as you start adding the water and mixing and blending them together. I don't think I ever come out with the same color ever, but that's what's fun about it. So, okay, we'll let that dry. Let's move on to this flower right here, and we'll add some Hibiscus Burst to it. But I do love how that white embossing powder just kind of makes everything come to life once you add darker colors over it, and the details really start to stand out. With this one, I might add some autumn rose rose to that one. It's one of my most favorite colors to use. It's kind of a deeper, darker color, but like I said, it's a little time consuming, but it sure is fun. Okay. And we got some yellow here. Since this was Orange Zest and Summer Sunrise, I don't want these to be the same shade, so I stamped them in Harvest Gold, and I'm going to accent them with Summer Sunrise so that they'll just be a softer shade of yellow and not super orange like my bigger flower. But I'm going to add a tiny bit of Orange Zest to my centers, just to add a little bit of shading. Okay, and then with these leaves, I stamped them in Spring Moss, and I definitely want them to kind of come to life a little bit. So I'm going to add some green parakeet. And this is not the last layer that we're going to add. We're getting close. We're getting close. I think the final layer is probably my most favorite. If you have another method of using watercolors besides your ink pads, maybe it's your reinkers that are your fave, or you've got a watercolor palette, those will work perfectly as well. And I missed this tiny little flower right here. I stamped that one in Sweet Blush. So I'm going to go one shade darker with some pale peony on that one. And then we'll go with a little bit darker center too. Let's go with some berry sorbet. No, excuse me, autumn rose. One more time, just where those little veins might be found. Okay, now we need to add the centers to all of our flowers, and we're just about done. Okay, so get your floral centers ready and choose which colors you're going to use. And we're going to water down these images as well. So I think I would like to try some berry sorbet on this large center flower. Just kind of see what it... Oh yeah. Perfect. Perfection. And let's see, next size. I'm going to... I know I definitely want autumn rose right here on that one. And I think I'm going to do autumn rose on that one too. And let's see, I'm going to do autumn rose on this small, delicate little thing. And then for my little yellow flowers, I think we'll do berry sorbet. Once again, like that color. Okay, so that part's done. So then you'll get your water brush one more time, and you're just going to, you're not going to dip it in any ink pad or watercolors, you're just going to use plain water, pure water, and just smudge those centers so that the water coloring and the blending and the pooling and puddling will start to take effect. And now for my favorite part. Okay, this might seem so contrary to what you learn when you're stamping. I think it's probably good I never took any classes and just kind of learn as I go, because I kind of make mistakes and some of those mistakes turn out okay. So we are going to add our detailed layer on top of our embossed layer, and you'll see that you'll see some of those detailed images and some of them you won't see, but the effect is just fine. It works out perfectly because you just get a light variation of what could be. So once again, that embossing powder just kind of works its magic and softens everything right up. Let's see. So those leaves I did in ripe avocado, and I'm going to do my large flower in hibiscus burst for my outline. See? Don't you love? Don't you love that you don't have to be accurate? It still turns out perfect. That's the beauty of artwork, I tell you. Okay, just trying to make sure I get these lined up okay. Let's do Autumn Rose on the back, or on the outline of this one. Of course I drop my stamp when I'm trying to record. It's okay. Orange Zest on the outline of this one. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. I've got another small flower here. We'll do Autumn Rose on it again. So you want to choose a color for your detailed images that will stand out from the rest. Of course, it's a little bit darker than the base. And lastly, I think we'll just do Orange Zest once again on these. Yeah, actually I just changed my mind. I think I want to do Summer Sunrise. Summer Sunrise on these little tiny yellow ones. How about? Okay. And voila. There you go. You awesome little artists. You are done. You are done with your stamping. So now you just get to die cut or fussy cut them and assemble your card. But don't you love that look? It's fun and artistic and messy and soft and just very romantic, which is perfect for impressionistic artwork. Alright, so now it's time to assemble our card. And what you're going to do is just create your card base. This is just out of white cardstock. And I'm using just the Jar Pint Mini stamp set, and I've gone ahead and stamped it in my lower right corner using mint julep ink. And we're going to add just a little bit of watercolor to that, and you're just going to use the very same technique as before. So this is Aqua Mist. I'm just going to add some blue, some aqua, just to kind of resemble and mimic water. I'm not going to fill in all of it. And let's see, I'm actually going to mix in some mint julep as well. Just add a little bit of shading and color to that. Alright, and then you're going to add a little bit of background to your jar. And I like to use the Background Basics Textile stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it in Mint Julep right across my jar. Okay, so I've stamped my textile, Background Basics Textile. You can tell that I'm not wanting to keep this clean and precise. I let it run off this edge a little bit because we're going to layer and kind of create a soft collage look here with the rest of our card. Then I used the stems from Friendship Jar Flowers, the stems and the leaves, because I wanted stems to show through my jar. There are some beautiful examples of impressionistic artwork in jars, and that's where I drew my inspiration for this card. It's from those beautiful jars. Okay, so just position it so your stems are going to show kind of dipped into the water of the jar, and you're going to have some leaves showing. And I'm not worried about my center not stamping. Getting in a bit of a hurry, so because you're going to cover them up with all of these flowers, and you won't even have to worry about the centers. Okay, so your next step in this process is to go ahead and find the proper placement for your flowers and go ahead and adhere them in place. Your stamping is essentially done except for your sentiment. So I, on this card, used dimensional adhesive for a couple of my flowers just to add dimensions. So I encourage you to do that as well. Okay, so my little jar is assembled. Now just a few more steps. You could obviously end there and just add your sentiment if you wanted. It's completely up to you. To further the impressionistic feel a little bit more, I added some sponging of color. This is Aqua Mist, and I'm just going to lightly add in a little bit of sponging and blending in my background, because that creates a really soft, muted look, especially in those areas where you've got greens and blues. Add your greens and your blues. And then when you've got your pinks, add your pinks and your oranges and so on and so forth. That will soften and further add to the impressionistic feel. But if you're happy with it the way it is, by all means, go right ahead and stick that card in an envelope and send it off. This is some mint julep. Could have done this before I added my flowers, but this is just a peek into my brain and my thought process. Okay. And on my original card, I added a little bit of orange. And I think on this one, because of how the colors turned out, I'm going to add a little bit of pink instead. Like I said, my flowers never really turn out the same each time. That's part of the fun. Okay, and that's probably enough of that. We don't want to overdo it. Okay, and then it'll just be time to add your water droplets. And all you have to do for that is fill a cup with just a couple teaspoons full of water and then a couple drops of your re-inker. This was Orange Zest, and I just added 2 drops. I think on this one I'll use Hibiscus Burst mixed with water and splatter that on. Okay, so the water droplets have dried, and you've got this beautiful puddled effect here, which is so beautiful. I don't know if you like this effect or not, but this is just some translucent old tape that I have on hand, and I'm just going to add it here and there because it adds to the weathered old look. Totally optional. Just going to add my sentiment from the Bigger Blooms stamp set. I used mini blooms on this one with a button. And then Be Happy was used across the bottom here, the Be Happy border. On this one though, I switched it up and I'm using the heart border die and the Pale Peony plus White Basics paper across the bottom because I like that tiny little polka dot. So mix it up, add your own touch to things, enjoy the process. This is such a fun technique that I think you'll be hooked on just as I have. So I can't wait to see what you come up with, and I hope you'll keep using this technique over and over again. Thanks for visiting. Bye.